UFC 268, another grade A fight card coming at us. I don't think that we've ever had back-to-back fight cards within a week's time frame that were as stacked as this past fight card that we just had, then going into UFC 268, today's episode. I mean, it's an absolute pleasure to break down these fights, and it's an absolute pleasure to watch them take place. And, this fight card right here, we're going into it, hitting 7 plays straight in a row. So I'm excited. I think that we really have some solid spots here. There's a lot of value on this card. We're going to be getting into all of that. Like I said, 7 in a row straight. That means that we hit all 3 of our plays that took place this past weekend. With no further ado, let's get into today's episode.
The teller.
It's another day. Left jab, right jab. This is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts, undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim? Looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting. If you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go. I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
What is up, you guys? UFC 268. The rivalry continues. Kamaru Usman taking on Colby Covington once again. You guys remember how the first fight took place. One of the greatest welterweight championship fights we've ever seen. I'm very, very excited to see these guys square off again. Thug Rose getting the rematch with Zhang there. Or maybe I should say Zhang getting the rematch with Rose. Of course, Rose got the very quick finish on Zhang the last time they squared off. Gaethje versus Chandler. Everybody's talking about this fight being the true people's main event, and I cannot argue with anybody that says that. What an absolute crazy matchup there. So excited for that. Shane Burgos, always fun to watch. Frankie, the Hall of Famer Edgar, taking on Marlon Chito Vera. We got my brother, Andreas Michailidis, taking on Alex Pereira. You guys know Alex Pereira, man, a very talented kickboxer. Has a knockout over Israel Adesanya. It's a big match there. Plus much more, man. We got a lot of good fights to talk about. Garry, got to brush upon him real quick. If you guys are not familiar with Garry, you're going to want to learn about this guy, man. The hottest prospect to come out of Ireland since Conor McGregor, 7-0, undefeated. And then we got some real crowd-pleasing fights, even at the start of the fight card, man. Melsick taking on Bruno Silva. That's a fun fight. Dustin Jacoby's been bringing it. Gian Villante versus Chris Barnett. These are all fun fights here, man. So an absolute stacked card. Again, I rate this card an A, just as I did for UFC 267. Both A-grade cards. And we're going to be getting into each and every one of these fights. You guys know the routine. Please hit that like button. For me over here, it helps in a major way. It helps with the algorithms and all that. Please subscribe if you guys have not already. Let's creep our way up to that 5K subs. Catch me on all social media platforms. Instagram, Twitter, all that, man. Instagram, MMA Fortune Teller _. And Twitter, The MMA Teller. And what else? I don't want to hold you guys up. We're going to do a little recap of UFC 267. We hit all 3 plays. Very excited to talk about the plays we targeted there. And let's go turn the page over to UFC 267. So UFC 267 delivered without a doubt. What an exciting fight card, man. One of the most enjoyable fight cards I've had in a long time. Of course, it doesn't hurt when you're hitting all your plays, and especially when you have an 8-unit max play that's hitting there. We're going to talk about every one of these fights, quickly. We won't go on too much about them, but in the first fight, Tager Ulanbekov takes out Alan Nascimento. Split decision victory. I thought it should have been unanimous. You guys know I had Tager mixed up in a 4-unit 2-team parlay. I had 2 parlays, 2 separate 2-team parlays on this fight card, 1 straight play. The Tager was part of a 4-unit play there. I like Tager. A little disappointed in his performance, but I like the fact this was a flyweight bout. A little bit less room for something disastrous to happen, like a big power knockout or something like that, compared to some of the other fights I was looking into. But Tager did show up. The grappling's relentless. He needs to polish some things up, though, for sure. I love the fact, obviously, he's training with Khabib and whatnot. The guy is a stud. But Alan Nascimento showed to be tricky off his back as well. Andre Petroski takes out Hugh. Yao Zhang Hugh. This was a fun fight here, man. A lot of people thought Andre was gassing out there early in the fight, but he continued to push through it and delivered in a very entertaining way. He was throwing some big shots, continued with the wrestling, the ground and pound, ended up pulling off that arm triangle choke in the third. Lerone Murphy takes out Makwan Americani, gets the nasty knockout in the second round after losing the first round. Timed the knee beautifully. Devastating knockout. This guy Murphy is absolutely legit, and he's representing England in a great way. And again, going into this card, you guys remember I was on a lot of the favorites. Got a little bit of slack for that, man. But hey, I'll tell you guys how it is. I'm here to pick winners. I'm here to pick who I think is going to win these fights. I'm not going to pick dogs just to pick them. Look how this fight card played out. Almost called the entire fight card clean there. So, one fight I did not get that I was on the fence with, that I was a little upset with, it was a pick'em. Michel Oliasejczak takes out Shamil Gamzatov. Mihail Oliasejczak looked absolutely great in there. His hands always looking good, and I'm excited to see him back in there soon. Now, this takes us to the straight play here, man. Zaleski dos Santos takes out Benoit Saint Denis. Where do I start with this fight here, man? 4-unit play. Grabbed it at a good line here, and then the very low -200s. I love the experience that Zaleski had here, but I got to give props where props is due. And this guy, Benoit Saint Denis, was an absolute stud in there. Extremely tough, extremely durable. The referee that was reffing this fight put on the absolute worst performance I've ever seen from a referee. I thought the fight should have been stopped, although you could argue that that's not the case. Of course, Benoit was still fighting, so I guess you can argue that the fight should not have been stopped, but he was taking a severe amount of damage in there. Then the referee takes a point away in the third for a groin strike that was barely even there. And how about the fact that Saint Denis at one point in time was saying he couldn't see? He was pointing at his eye saying he couldn't see, and the referee just ignored him and said, "Fight." I mean, it was an absolute joke. I was going nuts when this fight was taking place. I thought that they were going to end up stopping this fight with the eye situation. I thought something bad was going to happen there when I saw the victory so clearly in front of me. And then if you guys remember the point being taken away, I'm like, oh my God, watch us get a draw right now. At the end of the day, though, all the judges were on Zaleski all day, and he actually won the fight quite easily. So, boom, 4-unit play hits there. Now, first leg of the 8-unit max play. Albert Duryov takes out Roman Kopylov. The fight actually played out a little bit closer than I thought it would. Didn't like the fact that Albert didn't go in for the grappling exchanges and the takedowns early in the fight when they were dry and fresh. He tried to showcase his striking a little bit in the first round, and either way, handles the fight pretty comfortably there. Had a 10-8 round in the second, almost stopped the fight. I mean, what a bloodbath. Both of these guys' faces were absolutely destroyed. It was a crazy fight there. Zubara Tukigov takes out Ricardo Ramos. Ramos hit Tukigov with a nasty elbow there too as well. Fun fight. Amanda Ribas handles business, takes out Verna Gendiroba. Again, man, calling all these fights here. And now this will take us to the end of a 2-team parlay in regards to the 4-unit play. Magomed Ankalaev took him to take out Volkan Ozdemir. You guys know I'm extremely high on Magomed Ankalaev. I told you guys, this guy is a possible champion in the making. In fact, I say he does hold gold. The guy is so talented. He's cerebral out there. He makes very smart decisions. He's very cautious. He's extremely gifted as an athlete. He can grapple. He can strike. I mean, you guys saw it all there. I mean, he was outstriking Volkan Ozdemir, who was a very polished striker, like it was nothing. He wasn't going in there, trying to risk it all to get a first-round knockout, but he was picking Ozdemir apart. You saw Ozdemir's face. It put a nasty gash in Ozdemir's eyebrow. Magomed is the real deal, and good luck to anyone that's fighting him. I'm telling you, this guy is a stud. That hits the 4-unit parlay there. And again, I'm gonna show you these bet slips in a second here on my Instagram. 1 second, we'll finish the card here first. Khamzat Chimaev takes out the Leech. And you guys know this was the second leg of the 8-unit max play. I was all over this play. grabbed the line at a very solid line. We'll get to that here in a second. But, of course, a lot of action was going to come in on Chimaev as the week went on. So you got to get them in early. And I told you guys, Khamzat's the real deal. You know, I had people on my Instagram commenting that, you know, these guys are overrated, they're overhyped. And, of course, you guys always delete your comments after the fact. I can't stand how you guys do that. And, again, I keep slipping and not taking screenshots. If you're listening to that one dude, man, I forgot your tag, but you know, you were talking some crap, man, and everything you said absolutely proved to be wrong, and everything that you were coming at me with, I was absolutely right about. Khamzat is a beast. He went in there and treated the leech like he was a kid, lifted him up, picked him up, walked him over to the boss, slammed him down, finished the fight moments after. I mean, come on, what are you guys not seeing with this guy? Why do you guys have doubt in this guy? You need to see him go into a 15-minute war and slug it out. Unfortunately, I don't think that he's going to be engaged in any of those fights because this guy is just nasty. Okay, he's nasty. And I see him continuously doing what he's doing, even to higher level fighters in the division. I'm calling it right now. He's going to keep steamrolling these guys. All right, Alexander Volkov handles Marcin Tybura. Islam Makhachev, what a stud, the way he went out there and took out Dan Hooker. I mean, that's extremely high level fighting right there, man. I mean, one doesn't simply do that to Dan Hooker like that. Just rip the Kimura within seconds of the fight. We go to the co-main event. Petr Yan takes out Corey Sandhagen. Personally, I had this fight scored 4-1. Could have been 3-2. It came down to that second round. But there was a couple of you guys that were out there, a buddy of mine that was kind of flipping out, saying Corey should have won the fight. I disagreed very much. I thought Petr Yan looked amazing. He was the fighter that was aggressing. He was landing the powerful shots. Corey had some moments in the beginning of the fight where he was kind of popping him up a little bit, little pitter patters. And I think Corey's stock stays the same or goes even higher after that fight. Corey is so talented as well. And then we get to the main event, man. Big shout out to Glover Teixeira, who becomes the light heavyweight champion of the world. So happy for him. You know, I've been watching this guy fight way back to the HD Net fight days, where this guy was main eventing over there, and everybody was talking about how he was Chuck Liddell's disciple. And Glover Teixeira, now in his 40s, holding gold. I mean, it was a crazy fight. He went out there and just dominated Jan Blachowicz. It was weird. It was almost like Jan Blachowicz was just was like he said, he left all his talents in the hotel. He left his Polish power in the hotel. I mean, it really looked like that. I don't know what was up with that performance, but Glover got the fight down quite easily and did damage. And Glover, man, we can't keep sleeping on this guy. I know he's up there in age, but in my opinion, he's the best version of himself ever, even at the age that he's at. And I'm very happy to see a guy like him hold gold. He's an absolute great guy, and he's well deserving of holding the belt. So very happy to see that. Now, real quick, again, you guys can follow me over on Instagram at MMA Fortune Teller _. What about the free play I gave out to you guys? Gave the free play there. I gave the Zaleski Dos Santos play to you. If you guys are subscribed over at Sports Betting Weekly, I'm going to be giving you guys periodical free plays over there, so don't forget that, okay? That was a free play I gave away. And real quick, you guys can check out the 8-unit max play. You know, we had that parlayed. Khamzat at -450 and Albert Durov at -300. Got them nice and early. That was a -159 8-unit max play. Hit that nice right there. And then we had the 4-unit at -143. Grabbed both these boys nice and early as well. The lines were steamed, if you guys remember, Saturday morning. And then can't forget about the Zaleski Dos Santos 4 units at a -225. I'll take that money all day. All right, guys. And that's going to recap this past weekend's fight card. Now, again, follow me on Instagram, and I got the funny content coming to you guys. Got a little video here. A brutal crowd fight at UFC 267. You know who we got over here. The biggest celebrity in the game right now, brawling it out with his enemy. And I got all types of stuff, man, I'm working on the page. So please do go follow me. And this sums up right here. This sums up UFC 267. Kill everybody, says Khamzat Chimaev, the future welterweight champion of the world. How about that? No further ado, guys. We're going to move it forward. We got some new fights to talk about. Let's get it. So we got a flyweight bout kicking the card off. We got CJ Vergara taking on Ode Osbourne. Ode, man. You know, Ode, I had a dog play on him in his last fight. And that was a fight card that really played out beautiful for me. I hit every other play on the card except for that one. And if you guys remember, Ode was actually looking very good before he got caught with that flying knee by Manel Cup. But this is something that we got to take note of, man. Ode tends to drop the ball as far as since he's been in the UFC. You got to remember the Brian Kelleher, guillotine choke that he got caught with. He dove right into that, made a mental error. He definitely made a mental error in the Manel Cup fight. He was in control. He was looking to be the way quicker fighter on the feet. His hands were looking way faster. I think he was well on his way to win a decision there if the fight would have played out. But then he froze up. Manel jumped up with that knee, and Ode just like froze up like a statue. And I think that he has some mental issues in this game. I think he's a very talented fighter. But I would not be surprised if he does, or he makes some kind of mental error in his fights like that once again. I really wouldn't. CJ Vergara, on the other hand, this is a kid that just fought recently on the Contender Series, took out Bruno Correa, and he looked phenomenal in that fight. He looked absolutely phenomenal in that fight. He threw a beautiful knee right to the midsection and dropped his opponent and got the finish there. The thing I really enjoyed about that fight was the way that he was calling his shots. If you guys remember, before the fight even took place, you saw him in the back, talking to the cameras and whatnot, and he said, "Dana, get the pen out. I'm telling you, you're signing me tonight." I love the confidence. This kid obviously believes in himself. For someone to believe in themselves the way that he does, there's a reason behind that. This guy's a very, very talented fighter. He is 9-4 right now, 9-2, as a professional, and he's been handling business. Knocked out Jacob Silva, a tough fighter there as well, and he's been finishing guys left and right. We're talking about 5 finishes in a row. This guy has some real power. If Ode makes a mistake, there's no reason why CJ can't get the finish here against Ode. Again, Ode has made some mistakes as of recently and has been finished, and CJ is a finisher. So you've got to take that into consideration. Ode's going to have a little bit of a reach advantage, 2.5 inches with the reach, an inch height advantage. Ode has a nice frame for the division. And again, in regards to Ode, he's an extremely quick fighter, an extremely quick twitch, explosive type fighter, very fast in the feet with the striking, very technical. He's shown to have some skills in the mat as well with his jiu-jitsu. I think he did have a submission victory on Dana White's Contender Series a little bit ago, right? Pulled off that nice armbar submission over Armando Valerio. So he has shown to be a decently well-rounded fighter. But I'm going to take the dog here. I like CJ. I like the energy that this kid brings into the cage. And I think there's some signs pointing here that he should be able to get the job done. We'll see what version of Ode shows up. Because if Ode does show up making some good decisions in the cage, his ability can definitely lead him to have a victory inside the octagon. He's a very talented fighter, but I'm going to roll with Vergara here. We take a look at the live line. And real quick, excuse me, guys. Let's see here. 2 seconds. We get the line right now at with Ode as a minus 175 favorite to Carlos's plus 145. Right around plus 150, right around that range right there, okay? So people are favoring Ode. People do see his ability when he does put it together. But I'm going to take the dog in that spot right there to kick things off. Now, speaking of really good talent coming off Dana White's Contender Series, Melsik Bagdasaryan taking on Bruno Souza. You guys know Melsik the Gun, the Armenian fighter, is an absolute stud. If you guys don't know about him, this is another fighter you're going to get to know very soon. Only 6-1 as a professional mixed martial artist, but has a lot of kickboxing experience. He's a nasty striker. As of recently, we saw him in somewhat of a war in that Dana White's Contender Series fight, but definitely flashed with his striking. You could see the skills that he brings to the table there. But then in his last fight against Colin Anglin, just absolutely brutalized him there, got the finish, and you really see what this kid's about. 29 years old, I guess not necessarily a kid. I mean, he's creeping to the prime of his physical ability, but as far as his overall mixed martial arts game, I mean, this guy has some years ahead of him to really groom himself out. So you're going to see a better version of him every time. The more he gets confident that he can stuff takedowns and work his clinch game and keep the fight from hitting the mat, because I really don't think he wants to get it there. or he wants to, he doesn't want the fight to touch the mat, the more he feels confident that he's able to keep the fight standing, the more he can let loose on the feet. And when he lets loose, the nickname is perfect, the gun. I mean, he's firing shots at you. The shots are coming extremely fast at your head. And then Bruno Souza, the Tiger. Bruno, this is a guy that's actually a decent striker as well. If you go to YouTube, you can actually watch his entire fight with Kamwela Kirk. That was over at LFA, and you guys know Kamwela Kirk is a talented fighter. We've seen him fight in the octagon, and that was a good fight. And you see Souza is a guy that's really light on his feet, has a karate type style. He's throwing out the hiya as he's throwing his strikes. I mean, he's really doing all that type of stuff. He's a real karate type fighter, a traditional martial artist type fighter. Very light in his feet. He's a good striker as well. So this is an entertaining fight. Just two guys that like to strike, but two different types of styles. Melsek, just way more brutal with his striking, more forthcoming at you. Well, Bruno will be on the back foot, dancing around, throwing some counter attacks and whatnot. And but he's a tough fighter as well. He does bring the fight as well. Only 25 years old, very young right now. Both these guys have a 70-inch reach. Melsek will be 2 inches taller, and Melsek, he comes in phenomenal shape, man. Melsek is he's a muscular dude. He's a physically gifted guy. And you can see him working the bag right here, man. This guy is for real. I'm telling you guys right now. Extremely quick with his strikes. And I think this guy's going to be a force to be reckoned with for a while. And I think you're going to see a lot of knockouts on his resume as he continues to fight in the UFC. Beautiful head kick, beautiful kicks as well. I mean, just an overall nasty striker. And that was against Colin England, I believe. Yeah. TKO win tonight. Armenian pride. Shout out to the Armenians out there. Great fighters. And I think you guys know which way I'm going with this. I will take Melsek to win the fight. And, the line right now, right around minus 280, 290. A little high, possibly. But, if you want to try to make it work with something, you're going to have to throw it in a parlay. Or you're going to have to take him to win the fight via finish. Maybe via knockout to get a better line. Like I said, comes in phenomenal shape. I like Melsek. Bag this area in to win the fight. Dustin Jacoby taking on John Alon, the headhunter. John Alon, a precision striker. This guy is pretty accurate with his boxing. Been decently impressed from what I've seen from him inside the octagon. Dustin Jacoby, need I say more about the guy? I've been raving about him for years now, ever since he's worked his way on Dana White's Contender Series and got the contract, in his second stint with the UFC. I think whatever he did with his career, going over, focusing on his kickboxing and whatnot, was the absolute perfect move for him. Because this guy he's looked amazing as of recently, and just seems to be on another level with his striking when he's in there with these guys. Like I said, John Alon has some nice striking as well, but I expect Dustin Jacoby to be the way more diverse striker, mixing up the elbows, the knees, the calf kicks, all that. John Alon, a good striker, like I said. I think more so will be looking to throw those hands out there, try to touch Dustin's chin. It's not going to be easy though. Dustin has very good defense as well. Dustin 33 years old compared to John at 28 years old. Dustin 2 inches taller with a 3-inch reach advantage, so he has that frame advantage as well. And as of recently, got the knockout over Darren Stewart, looked great there. He had the draw with Ian Cutelaba, the split decision draw. He should have won that fight. I think they gave Cutelaba that 10-8 round in the first. I think that's what happened. I think it was a little ridiculous, if I remember correctly. And that was actually an official play of mine that ended up getting spoiled. I got my money back. But I was on Dustin Jacoby there. And, I like Dustin Jacoby here again. Now, as far as the line goes, take a look at the line. Now, this one, for what the fight is, maybe the line is not necessarily the best here. Because John Alon is, again, he's a tough, well-rounded fighter. And I think he could hold his own on the feet. Real quick, let's pull this up here. It's hiding from me here, guys. Sorry about that. Yeah, they might not have it on yeah, they don't have it on here. Excuse me, guys. Oh, no, here. Oh, yeah, they don't have it. It was a newly added match because John Alon was supposed to be taking on Alexa Kamar before Dustin Jacoby stepped in. I do believe that Dustin Jacoby is right around a minus 185. I think that's right around where the line is right now, guys. You guys will see that line pulled up very soon here. I gave it a peek. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. I think it was like a minus 185 range. But Dustin Jacoby, again, just a phenomenal striker. I got to pick Jacoby to come in here and handle business. He's been on absolute fire. You see that. You see what Quarantillo is doing to these guys anyway. So for him to go in there and have the performance that he did, I think the stock in that performance is even higher after seeing what Quarantillo is doing as of recently. He's a beast. Dustin, looking great. I got to pick Dustin Jacoby here. But just understand that this guy, John Alon, is a talented fighter. This isn't some scrub. This isn't some pushover. You know, and we could take a look about what he's done recently. Had a very tough fight against Roman Dolge. Split decision loss. Some people thought that he should have won that fight. It was back and forth. And then the Mike Rodriguez fight, he did win that fight. Got overturned due to a drug test. And, you know, they get caught in a submission by Vinicius Moreira, who's a horrible UFC fighter, but nevertheless a good submission artist. So he got caught there. You know, we'll see how this fight plays out. Should be a good one. And if Jacoby gets another victory here, expect some big names for Jacoby in the near future. He's 33 years old. Doesn't have forever. I mean, I don't know what more the UFC wants from the guy. Start giving him some big names. Let him work his way towards the top because he's a very, very talented striker. And that will take us to the heavyweight division. Gian Villante taking out Chris Barnett. Chris Barnett getting another opportunity inside the octagon. If you guys remember, he just recently got submitted by Ben Rothwell. You know, he's the big boy that's doing all types of fun shows. The grappling match against Yoel Romero. You know, he's had some interesting fights around the world, and he's a big boy. You know, if you know a little bit about this guy, this is a guy that actually played football here in South Florida. I believe he played at was it USF maybe? No, not in Tampa. Might have been FAU. I forget exactly which school, but this guy played some football, and you know, it's crazy. He actually got into football very late. He's a natural athlete. He picked it up very quickly. There was a story about him drinking tequila the night before and going hungover to some practice or something like that. So the guy seems to be a little bit of I don't want to say a wild dude, but maybe not a guy that's comparable to some of these UFC fighters that are so strict and you know, on a stringent diet and whatnot. You know, maybe more just like one of the boys is Chris Barnett, like me, you know, throwing some tequila back in the weekends. Maybe not the most disciplined fighter. Maybe you're not going to see me balloon up to 263 pounds. But you know what? Gian Villante really can't poke at Chris Barnett, because Gian Villante is a guy that shouldn't be walking around at the weight that he's walking at right now, 243 pounds. I mean, he's a guy that could have maybe even been fighting at middleweight if he was more disciplined. Maybe not, but definitely light heavyweight. And now, you know, it's okay. He's still putting on fun performances, and the UFC keeps giving him more shots to fight. And he's eating whatever he wants. He's eating with Matt Serra and all the Italians up there in the Northeast. He's eating garlic rolls and pizza. But like I said, he's still going in there and he's still putting on fun fights. Just lost to Jake Collier, Maurice Green, and Michel Oliasechek. Keep in mind the Maurice Green fight, he was actually looking pretty good in that fight before he got caught in that sub, that come from behind win there. 36 years old. You know, Villante will be the naturally bigger guy. He'll have a big height advantage here. Only a one inch reach advantage. Keep in mind, Chris Barnett, this guy, if you remember the beginning of the fight with Ben Rothwell, he actually looked very, very quick in there for his size and very explosive. He does have some grappling experience. You know, if you're not up to par, if you gas out, I mean, he could fall on top of you, and he's not a guy that's going to be easy to get off of you. You know, I'm curious to see what he looks like at the weigh-in. Is he going to start to take? Is he going to start to take things a little bit more seriously? We'll see. If that's the case, you see him here busting a move. If that's the case, I mean, there's no doubt he can go out there and take out a guy like Villante. But let's see what he looks like, and let's see how he shows up. I have a feeling that his gas tank won't be there at all, and not to say that Villante's will be that much better, but you know what, man? If the Villante that just fought 2 fights ago against Maurice Green could show up, he could definitely win this fight, and I could see him taking over in the later rounds. And of course, you know, the longtime friend of Chris Weidman and all those boys over there, Aljo and all those guys. You see them back in the day. I mean, you see what I'm talking about? This is what Gian Villante used to look like, former college linebacker. I mean, he's a real athlete, this guy. Curious to see what he looks like at the weigh-ins as well. Take a look at the live line here. And right now we got Villante at, it's a pick'em, -110, and it's a pick'em fight, so you could pick your poison here. I like Gian Villante to win the fight. But again, curious how both these guys are going to look at the weigh-in. I think that if either one of these guys actually wanted to really get on the grind and take this fight even a little bit more so serious, of course they're always taking these fights serious, but even a little bit more so and really put in that extra work, that would be the fighter that's going to take this fight. Whose cardio is going to be looking better towards the middle of the second round. And I'll take Villante. I think Villante can land some good hands. Watch out though for Barnett early. Again, Barnett has some real power, and he's not afraid to sling it right at your chin in the beginning of the fight. But Villante is the pick there. And that will take us to a welterweight match that I'm very excited to talk about here. Garry taking on Jordan Williams. I was very pleased to break down tape on Garry. I've heard about him for a little bit right now, for a while now, but it was really just fun actually dissecting all of his fights. I put in a lot of time on breaking down tape on this guy, and like I said, it was fun to watch. Garry, only 23 years old, about to be 24 very shortly, so it's still a very young fighter. He is an absolute sniper on the feet. He's very calm. I love his striking style. It almost reminds me, stick with me here, it almost reminds me of James Gallagher's style, kind of like that Irish style a little bit. Some of those guys over there, a lot of those Irish fighters over in Bellator, that same type of style, but he has way more pop on his strikes than those guys. He has good pop on his strikes, and he's more talented there anyway. But it's that same kind of style, man. You could see that Irish striking style in him. You want to talk about that striking? How about the head kick knockout over Rostam Akman? If you guys remember him, the Swedish fighter, a former UFC fighter, a very tough guy, who actually had a very tough fight in the octagon. He showed to be a very durable fighter. That's a big win to go out there and finish him like that. Just took out Jack Grant, and again, Garry was, since he let the belt go. He was the former Cage Warriors champion. Knockout over Lawrence Tracy, a knockout there. I mean, finishing a lot of fights. Greg McManus, Macias Figlak, even pulling off a submission there. I was impressed with his grappling as well. Don't expect his wrestling to be the best as of right now. Needs to continue to grind with that, but the submission skills are there. I was impressed from his jiu-jitsu game on the mat. So if this fight does go down there, this isn't the guy that's just completely green, doesn't know what he's doing. Jordan Williams has only won one of his last 4 fights. And, he's really only got this to talk about as of recently. He had that big knockout over Gregory Rodriguez. Gregory was willing to engage into brawl. We talked about this recently. And Gregory got caught. And once he was put on Queer Street, Jordan was able to stiffen him up against the cage there. He really put it on him. But you know what? I said if they fight 100 times, I think Gregory wins 90 times, if I'm being honest. And, nothing but respect to Jordan Williams. I love his whole story about being a diabetic, pushing through things and becoming a UFC fighter. And, he's not the biggest guy for the division. And, this is a tough fight for him. I think that this kid Garry is the truth. I think he's going to be a UFC fighter for a while. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be, I shouldn't even say that, but I don't know if he's going to be a Conor McGregor type fighter. But forget about the level of that and, how difficult that is to do. I mean, I can't try to measure him up to Conor, but could he even be, as talented as some of these big time European prospects that are coming over? I do think so. With a guy like this, I don't think it's more so is he going to be able to survive in the UFC, but it's going to be how high can he push it? How far can he go? Can this guy have the potential to really crack the top 15 down the line, work his way into the top 10? We'll see about that. He definitely has all the talent in the world. He's so young. I mean, just imagine what he's going to look like when he's 28. Time will tell. And, this is another guy that you can add to the list as one of those, very talented European fighters coming over and doing things in the UFC. If you look at him, this is an example, or this is a product of Conor McGregor. You got to believe that. Conor McGregor bursted on the scene. It's already been a long time, really, if you think about it, since Conor was doing all that. I can imagine the age that Garry was when that was all happening, and I'm sure Conor was a major influence to Garry, and a major influence that got him to be where he's at in his career right now. So it's pretty cool to see those types of things. Good, check this out too right here. A major sign for him that he's going to be a great fighter is that this guy has traveled all the way to South Florida and is putting in work over at Sanford MMA, training with Henry Hooft, working on his striking there. One of the best striking coaches in the game. You guys know I'm always saying that. But the level of talent at that gym is ridiculous. The fighters that are over there. This is a major sign that this guy is willing to make the sacrifices to go all the way to the top. So this guy's a winner. I'm telling you guys right now, this guy's a legit winner. And as good as his striking has looked throughout his career, imagine him now grinding it out with Henry Hooft. That's a scary thought right there. And I think he's trying to pull off a little McGregor here. He's in the convertible with the little Irish girl. I mean, this is very reminiscent to a little McGregor stuff. But as far as his personality goes, well, I mean, not a lot of people can live up to a Conor McGregor. So, but it's cool that Ireland has a fighter there to begin to root on again, because you know the deal with Conor. He's not always around these days, and they need some young blood. And you guys know which way I'm going with this. I'm definitely taking the Irishman to win the fight. Ian Garry. The line's getting steamed a little bit. Keep an eye on that, though. It could be from the Irish fans. The Irish fans are known to do that. They will steam their fighters. They put a lot of money. They back their boys up. So a lot of action coming in on him. Is it warranted? Minus 365. Be careful. Be careful. This thing will be at the minus 400s before you know it. Jordan Williams is a good fighter. He's a good striker. He's a decent fighter. Has the UFC experience here. But I'm on Ian Garry to win this fight. And that will take us over to the middleweight division. We're going to bump up one weight class. We got Edmen Shahbazyan taking on Nassourdine Imavov. You talk about fighters that are very young in their career and that they're getting hyped up. They're the next big thing. I mean, Edmen Shahbazyan was that guy not too long ago. He's now lost 2 fights in a row. Lost to Derek Brunson. You guys all know about that. That was a devastating fight. And then he lost in his next fight against Jack Hermanson, which Jack Hermanson was an official play of mine. But let me not tell you guys that the Derek Brunson fight, Edmen Shahbazyan was an official play of mine there. So, we got to call them both out, right? I can't just gloss over that official play. So we're 1-1 in regards to having bets on a fight that Edmen Shahbazyan's involved with. Am I touching this one? Stay tuned. Maybe I won't. Maybe I will. But Edmen Shahbazyan, the loss to Jack Hermanson, maybe don't be too harsh on him there. Jack Hermanson's a very, very high caliber fighter. Jack Hermanson's the real deal there. And Jack was able to use the grappling and able to ground and pound him and just kind of grind him out there. Pulled off the unanimous decision. Keep this in mind, Edmen's still only 23 years old. So a lot of room for improvement. He's shown flashes before. I mean, he looked beautiful against Brad Tavares, the beautiful knockout there. Pulled off the rear naked choke over Jack Marshman. Guy that's grappling's not really on the level. And then, of course, the Charles Byrd knockout. I think he had another knockout victory before that too, I believe. Let's scroll back real quick. Dana White's Contender Series. Got the early knockout there. Had a tough fight with Darren Stewart. That was a little early sign of some of the flaws that he had in his game. He's kind of grinded in that fight. He did dig deep, and he did pull that fight out, but it was a close one. But guys have been kind of figuring him out a little bit. If you kind of take him into those deep waters and try to grapple him, he kind of fades as the fight goes. If you land some big shots on him, he's really not the same fighter. It's kind of weird. And then you got Nassourdine Imavov, a very talented fighter, coming off a big win over Ian Heinisch. Got that nasty knockout. Was very close to getting a knockout over Phil Hawes, but wasn't able to do it there. And Phil Hawes is on absolute fire. Imavov's only 25 years old as well. So these are two young studs with big frames for the weight division. 6'3", 6'2". Imavov fighting out of the MMA factory. This is a good fight here. This is a solid fight here. I'm leaning towards Imavov's way. I like Imavov. Shahbazyan, like I said, man, there's just something a little off with him. When he eats some big shots, he just kind of he kind of cripples in there mentally and physically as well. He's not the same fighter that he was when the bell first kicked off in the first round. Something goes on with him, and I could definitely see Imavov landing some big shots. I mean, he's a very accurate puncher. He's a well-rounded fighter as well. He is a well-rounded fighter. This isn't a guy that's just completely inadequate on the mat. He could hold his own there. Of course, Shahbazyan is a guy that, there was stories about him, what he was doing in the jiu-jitsu world for years as a young kid, just subbing people left and right. But as we've seen, just competing in the jiu-jitsu game compared to fighting in a mixed martial arts fight, it's completely different. Like I said, the Hermanson fight and, the Brunson fight. And, if you take him down, and again, in the Darren Stewart fight as well, if you take him down and you kind of, slug him up a little bit, he does slow down in there, but still a very, very talented kid. I'm curious if he rights the ship here, if he gets things going again. I'm curious because he showed to have so much talent. But I like Imavov, okay? We take a look at the live line. Imavov right now, right around a minus 130 to minus 125 range. It's a close fight. A little bit of action coming in on Shahbazyan, as you guys see. I feel that Imavov is the better fighter here and has more signs pointing to him winning the fight. He's a little bit more trustworthy, and I like Imavov there. It'll take us to the lightweight division. We got the real estate agent making his return to the octagon, taking on Bobby Green. Bobby Green, a guy that's really been looking good towards the later half of his career. He's 35 years old, but if you ask me, Bobby Green's looking better than he's ever had. Coming off a loss, unanimous decision. I thought Rafael Fiziev won that fight, but if you guys remember, the judges were way off. One or two of the judges gave Fiziev the third round when Bobby Green clearly won that round. The first round I think was a little bit close. One of the first two rounds was close as well. And at the end of the day, Bobby Green looked good in that fight. Okay, he looked very good. Rafael Fiziev is a killer on the feet, and Bobby Green was very quick. The head movement in there, he was styling on him, and he's a very crafty and a very agile striker, man. And Iaquinta a little bit more stiff. Iaquinta has good boxing as well, but a little bit more stiff and a little bit more simple with the striking. I think Bobby Green's going to be looking to dip and dodge and be the quicker guy in here, mixing in some kicks and whatnot. I think that for every one punch Al's throwing, Bobby's probably throwing two. I expect to see more activity out of Bobby. Now, again, though, Iaquinta, he does carry some real power, though. You got to keep that in mind. Iaquinta does. I mean, he'll throw a shot and put a hole through your chest. A very, very well-rounded fighter. You guys know that. Getting it in, with Matt Serra, Aljamain Sterling, Merab Dvalishvili. I'll throw that out there. I'll get some hate for the pronunciations of the names. Go ahead, insert the hate. It's the same guys every time. I see you guys always hating on my pronunciations. Some of these names aren't that easy, man. And when you're up here with the mic, you guys would be surprised. These long, wild last names. But anyways, Iaquinta, man, a solid fighter, a very well-rounded fighter. But keep in mind, man, Al hasn't fought in over 2 years, and he lost to Dan Hooker. No shame in that. But the Donald Cerrone loss 2.5 years ago, that really wasn't the best look for him. Did take out Kevin Lee before that. Then he lost to Khabib, and at that time, man, really to this date, I mean, he actually gave Khabib a more challenging fight than really we've ever seen in Khabib's career. I mean, who actually gave Khabib, more of a difficult fight than him? Maybe was it Gleason Tibau? Maybe way back in the day, I think it was. But not a lot of people could hang with Khabib, and Al hung in that fight. He took that fight on short notice. He's 34 years old, so he's still younger than Bobby Green. It's not like Bobby Green is some young spring chicken. But from what I've seen as of recently, Bobby Green is moving. He's moving in there, and I like what I've been seeing. You see him running here with the bag. It's funny. But Bobby Green, man, he's a cool character too. I like Bobby Green. I like his style, man. It's not necessarily my style, but he's a cool dude, man. He's a cool cat, and I like Bobby Green to pull this fight off. I think that this fight could definitely play out closely. Again, Iaquinta is no joke. But Iaquinta on some books is as high as a plus 150 dog. That to me is a little bit surprising. I expected the line to be more close. I think the inactivity of Iaquinta is kind of leaning the line to point the way it is. But, you know, if Al's showing up to get his hand raised here, you know, do not underestimate the ability that he has, okay? I think the line should be a little bit closer in my opinion, but I take Bobby Green to win the fight. Now, we spoke about Phil Hawes earlier in the show. Here we go again, man. Phil Hawes throwing down with Chris Curtis, the action man. Chris Curtis. We'll start with Chris. Chris Curtis, you guys remember he fought on Dana White's Contender Series, got the victory. Dana White wasn't impressed enough to give him the contract there. You know, I was a little surprised at the time. I guess now that we've seen the show progress, though, you kind of understand why he didn't sign him. Dana's really looking for those guys to really go out there and look for the kill. But in that fight, I mean, he got a finish in the third round. He took out Sean Lally, you know, an 8-2 fighter. Maybe it wasn't the most impressive victory as far as opponent goes, but you know, he went in there, he handled business. He was on a whole nother level than Sean Lally in that fight, if you remember, just styled on him and then ended up getting the finish in the third. I think Dana didn't like that he didn't push the envelope earlier in the fight because he probably could have got a finish in the first or second round. Goes out there, takes out Matt Dwyer, Andre Fiallo. Then he loses 2 times to Magomed Kiramov, who is an absolute beast, right? Real quick, guys. We just saw Magomed take a big loss to Ray Cooper, but do not get it twisted. He's still a very, very legit fighter, okay? And then his other loss, he gets knocked out by Ray Cooper. Ray Cooper and Magomed Kiramov just fought, if you guys remember, and Ray Cooper ended up getting that knockout. But Magomed was in control before that. But 2 very, very high caliber fighters. Both those guys are UFC caliber fighters, no question. So you like to see him, you know, getting that type of experience in the cage, you know, with fighters like that. After those losses, he bounces back with 5 victories in a row. Takes out Kenny Robertson, Jerome Hatch, you know, not a lot of notable names. Kyle Stewart. But, you know, it's good to see that he went back to the drawing board. He's getting victories, and the UFC's finally giving this guy a call. Phil Hawes was supposed to fight recently. That fight fell through. He was supposed to be fighting Deron Winn, which was easy money. Deron Winn was going to get whooped up there, and you guys know that. I think that Chris Curtis is actually more of a challenge here than Deron was, because Phil Hawes was going to stuff Deron's takedowns, and I mean, you know, Phil Hawes is a very accomplished wrestler himself. He's a way bigger guy, and then on the feet, he was going to be too much for Deron Winn. Now we talked about Sanford MMA. We talked about Henry Hooft. There he is, and this guy's been putting in a lot of work with Phil Hawes from what I've seen on Instagram. And that's a problem. When you get a guy that has the wrestling pedigree, he's already a physical specimen. I think he used to put in work back in the day with Jackson Wink. This guy's been bouncing around to some of the best gyms in the world, and he is without a doubt hitting his stride right now as we speak. So, you know, Phil Hawes, as of recently, real quick, you know, he had a big victory over Kyle Dawkins against Nassourdine Imavov. Now, just take this into consideration. So what I want to say real quick before we do the official pick and we sum this fight up. Phil Hawes has been looking amazing as of recently, but he has had issues with kind of getting a little tired late in the fight. You know, he's very muscle bound. You know, we saw him in the Julian Marquez fight, gas out and end up getting knocked out in the end of the second round. You know, he lost a fight against Andrew Sanchez. He kind of gassed out in that fight, lost that fight to get into the Ultimate Fighter house. He was a big favorite to win that fight at the time. The Lewis Taylor fight as well. He has problems sometimes where he does slow down. Then in the Nassourdine Imavov fight, he gassed out in a big way in that third round, and Imavov was this close from getting the knockout. If you guys remember, he just couldn't put him out. He was so close, and Phil Hawes held on. So if this ends up being a grueling fight, Chris Curtis is a guy that is very accurate with his striking. He's very, very diverse, and he's a solid technical striker. So if Phil's going to get tired in there and gas out, if Chris is still good to go, he's going to land that shot at will, and he'll put Phil Hawes out. So that's a realistic possibility. At the end of the day, though, I got to back Phil Hawes here. Minus 375. I'm not crazy about that line right there. You're going to want to get a better line if you're going to put that in a parlay or try to take him to get the finish, which I wouldn't even go that route personally. This fight's a little bit of a tricky one. The line's a little weird in my opinion, but dude, I wouldn't be touching this 375, 350. I mean, hopefully you're getting at least 305, if not in the 200s, if that's even possible. You know, which I don't even think that he ever touched the 200s in any book. So, I don't know. It's a tricky fight there. But Phil Hawes is a guy that does drop the ball at times. Just remember that. This is a guy that does drop the ball. Has he cleaned all that up? We'll find out in due time. But the pick for me is definitely Phil Hawes. The guy's been looking good. Andreas Michailidis taking on Alex Pereira. Got the Greek taking on the Brazilian. You guys know I got a soft spot, you know, in my heart for the Greek fighters. I back them up. I mean, obviously, me being of Greek descent, I love rooting on the Greek fighters. I love seeing MMA develop over there. I love seeing the Greeks having talented fighters working their way into the UFC, getting victories and whatnot. We got a couple guys out there, and you know, I'm always going to be backing them. That being said, you guys also know when push comes to shove, my job is to hop on this mic here, and to give you guys an accurate assessment of who I think is going to win the fight and what's most likely going to happen, who's the better fighter. This guy, Alex Pereira, is a nasty striker. A nasty striker. If you're not familiar with him, this is a guy that put Israel Adesanya out unconscious, or I mean, whatever you want to call it, and he put him clean out. As he was on his back, he didn't know where he was. He even looked down and yelled in his face. I mean, that's a crazy sight to see right there. You know, just as dominant as he's been. I mean, look at his toes all curled up and bent up. I mean, he was out. You could pull that fight up online easy. Just type in the name, search it. But now, since he's even made his MMA debut, he's been putting guys out. Now, here's the thing, though. All right, so in his last fight, he had a beautiful check left hook knockout against Thomas Powell. Knocked out Marcus Vinicius, who has some experience, and then Marcelo Cruz knocked him out. Did lose his debut via rear naked choke, but that was a long time ago. That was 6 years ago. That was before this new stint of getting back into MMA, which over the last year, because obviously he's been putting in a lot of time with this kickboxing over the years. In the fight against Thomas Powell, he seemed to be able to stuff the takedowns very well, and in fact even make his opponent pay. He was actually, when his opponent was shooting in for takedowns, he was actually getting him with the clinch and throwing some nasty knees, really making him pay and making his opponent hesitant and scared to even try to close the distance in that aspect again. And but here's the X factor: is that guy who he was fighting, from what I've seen, is he even a decent grappler? Was he a decent wrestler? Not really. He's a below level fighter. How is Pereira going to fight against guys that are more well-rounded and can implement the grappling there? That's yet to be seen. Now, here's the thing. My brother Andreas Michailidis, the Greek, he's more of just a well-rounded mixed martial artist, and if anything, he's definitely more of a striker. He's a guy that really favors standing on the feet and throwing down. And he's decent at it. He has some good power. I'm not necessarily crazy about his technique, but he seems to make it work for him time and time again. A lot of times I'm watching his fights and I'm like, I don't know. I wish I can kind of, me being American and having the mixed martial arts training that I have, whatever, I'm not a UFC fighter, but the way my coach always taught me was based almost off like the Boss Rutan system. It's just more of a, the way you keep your hands, the way you're defensive, and just the whole type of way that you strike is very different than how Andreas fights. Andreas is very kind of wild and unorthodox with his striking. He keeps his hands low at times. He throws these kind of like stepping in hooks, and it's just a little different than what I'm used to. And I almost wish that he would, tighten up his striking, keep his elbows tucked in, keep his hands up right by his chin, and have more of like an American style, American boxing style, or however you want to say that. There's a lot of styles around the world that have, even your typical Muay Thai style. Keep your arms, closer up, guarding your head. Andreas is a little bit funky with his striking, and if I'm being quite honest here, I think that it could give him some problems. I do on the feet. If I'm being quite honest with you guys, I don't think that Andreas really has anything for Pereira here on the feet. I think that he'll be in big trouble. I think it will actually look something like this. I don't know if he'll bend down and yell in his face, but I think that he'll knock him out probably. I could easily see that happening. Here's the X factor though. is Andreas polished enough with his wrestling and grappling, you know, putting in the work with his MMA game for as long as he has. He has way more MMA experience. Is he polished enough with his grappling to try to drag Alex down to the deep waters and you know, get some takedowns and maybe submit him or whatnot? I mean, that's the X factor. That's what he's got to do. He cannot sit on the feet and strike with Alex. Alex will be too much for him there. You know, last time I seen Andreas shooting in for a takedown, he got stuffed up against the cage and Modestas started elbowing him to the back of the head and he got finished. So it was a little bit of an awkward fight, but you know, Alex is going to have a 5-inch reach advantage here. He's 4 inches taller. Andreas will have to close the distance, get in on those hips, and rinse and repeat or finish the fight early down there. I'm going to pick the Brazilian. It pains me to say it, man, but like I said, I keep it real with you guys. Alex Pereira, I got him to win the fight here. Not really crazy about the line. I don't know. You know, I mean, he's talking about a guy in the upper -200s that doesn't really have a grappling pedigree. We just saw this recently with Clarissa Shields. I posted on my Instagram, put a story. I said, if any of you guys took her at that line, you need to sit down and we need to have a talk. You can't be taking fighters that have absolutely no ground game. Yeah, it's fun. The striking's fun and whatnot, but we've seen that story time and time again. I think that Andreas is live here. I think he's a live dog. But at the end of the day, I think that Alex Pereira wins this fight, and it'd be cool if he actually works his way through the ranks and we ever see a rematch with him and Izzy. I mean, that's a long time coming, but maybe if Izzy were to lose some fights and they kind of met in the middle, but I don't know how it would take Alex a long time, I think, to work his way up to the title, but no, we'll see how things play out. Alex, 34 years old as well, so it's a tough one. But the pick is Alex Pereira. We got the for sure Hall of Famer, Frankie Edgar, taking on Marlon Chito Vera, who has proven to be a very, very talented bantamweight fighter. He's gone out there, he's taken a lot of guys out. He's just shown to be a very, very skilled fighter, a very diverse and very well-rounded fighter. Frankie Edgar, on the other hand, where do I even begin? I can go on and on about this guy forever. Been watching him for over a decade. Really, even a lot longer than that. Just saying just a decade. I mean, for a long, long time. If you guys remember, he was on, I think it was True Life, MTV True Life, way back in the day. I remember seeing this kid back then when he was working on mixed martial arts as just a young kid. You know, he had the wrestling pedigree. You guys always know, first and foremost, Frankie, you know, he had that wrestling pedigree, but his striking has came around. You know, he's one of he has been one of the best strikers, really, I would say in the bantamweight division, but in all the divisions that he's been in. He was a lightweight champion. He fought in the featherweight division. Remember, he knocked out Chad Mendes. Yeah, he's not a guy that always goes in there, he's taking guys' heads off, but this was a guy that has great footwork. Frankie's a guy that has great footwork, great head movement, and has great volume. He tags guys up. He works the body. I mean, now the guy's 40 years old, and not even just now when he's 40, but yeah, since he's been up in his upper 30s, he's ran into some trouble, which you would expect, especially in the lower weight classes. I think the fact that Frankie has been able to do the work that he's been able to do here in the last 5 years is amazing. You know, of course, he's taken some really tough losses, but to even be able to hang around, still pull off some solid victories here and there. In the lighter weight divisions, you do not see guys doing what he's doing. And you got Uriah Faber, who came back at that big win against Ricky Simone. But these are legends that are doing this. You don't see your casual guy creeping up to his 40s, putting in the work that Frankie's put in. And Frankie looks to still be in phenomenal shape. One thing that's unfortunate for him, it's not so much necessarily the speed that's left him, but the chin has got worse and worse throughout the years, as you would expect. I mean, he's taken so much damage. If you remember those Gray Maynard fights, the trilogy, I mean, he was getting dropped in those fights, even though he came back and won 2 of them, right? I think it was 2 of them that he came back and won after almost getting finished. I mean, yeah, it was 2, I think, right? The first one was a close one. You got to expect that Frankie's chin was going to diminish over the years. Like I said, the guy's 40 years old. This is a tough fight because Marlon Chito Vera is a guy that has pinpoint accuracy, and he could be touching your chin with his shin in seconds. So I mean, there's definitely potential that Marlon gets a knockout here. I do believe that. You know, as of recently, you know, Marlon stopped Sean O'Malley, stopped Andre Ewell. And if you run the table back, I mean, he's had some really nice stoppages. But lost to Jose Aldo. That was a tough one for him. And a lot of people thought he should have won against Yadong Song. So he's really been putting it together as of recently. Well, Frankie, lost to Max Holloway. Not a bad look. It's okay. Got knocked out by the Korean Zombie. That was a tough one there. Bounced back with that victory over Pedro Munoz. That was a fight that he got wobbled into. And a lot of people thought Pedro won that fight. And then he got, knocked out by Corey Sandhagen in a devastating way. That flying knee was absolutely brutal. And, after that knockout, if you guys remember, if you caught, his show here, this is his show, the Champ and the Tramp, and, with Roger, from the Jersey Shore. He was the boyfriend of I forget her name, the one that had the body, the butterface with the body, the tough girl. But they became friends, and Roger's a very genuine guy. Roger said he wanted him to retire. Everyone in his circle is really kind of wanting Frankie to hang them up. I have no doubt in my mind that if Frankie goes out there and gets knocked out, it's over. I think that he's done. So this is possibly the last time we see Frankie in there. I'm really pulling for Frankie. I hope he does something here. It's not going to be easy, like I said, though, man. Marlon's no joke. I got Marlon Chito Vera to win the fight, and in fact, I could see him hurting Frankie pretty bad here. Marlon right around a minus 175, 165. Now, the X factor here is, of course, that Frankie has a crazy gas tank and he could wrestle. And sometimes, if these fighters are not really up to par with their wrestling and they're grappling, Frankie will rip you down to the mat and he'll throw some nasty ground and pound on you, or he'll control you there. It was already such a long time ago, but we remember seeing it against guys like Yair Rodriguez and a bunch of other guys. I don't know if he's necessarily in a position to do that to Marlon, though. And I got Frankie Edgar to lose this fight, and I have a feeling this will be the last time that we see him in the octagon. I think he might get finished here. Unfortunately, if I'm being honest, that's what I kind of see happening. And but I'll be rooting for Frankie, and I hope that he surprises me and he shows up and he delivers. And either way, I mean, this guy's cut from a different cloth, and you're talking about an old school fighter. I mean, you hear stories about the old school boxers, Jake LaMotta, all those guys, Dempsey, all those guys. This is a guy that's cut from that cloth. This guy's built from a whole different type of cloth than the fighters you see nowadays. This guy is just super, super tough. I hope he gets the job done, but it's going to be a tough one for him. Shane Burgos taking on Billy Q. Quarantillo. This is an exciting matchup here. Shane Burgos always delivers in his fights. This guy is just an absolute killer. That Tiger Schulman type style. Walking you down, throwing calf kicks, throwing heavy hands, looking to take you out. Billy Q, a crafty grappler, a crafty striker, a well-rounded fighter. Guy that's putting in some work with Antonio Tarver over here. Working on the hands, man. That's Antonio Tarver, a legend in the game. Getting some good work there. And he's going to need it if he's going to be able to hang with Burgos. If he's going to need to, he's going to need to let his hands go. And that could be a big factor in the fight if he's able to clip Burgos here. Burgos is a guy, like I said, he's a very aggressive fighter. He's looking to take you out, but he has some major flaws in his striking defense, in my opinion. If you watch his fights, he takes a lot of damage. He inflicts a lot of damage, but he takes a lot of damage, and it has cost him. It's cost him in a couple fights. If you guys remember when he got knocked out, by the Bostonian, the Massachusetts boy, he got knocked out by, name slipping my mind, Calvin Kattar, got knocked out by Calvin Kattar. That was a fight where he got a little bit over aggressive and he got caught. And then the Edson Barbosa fight as well. But don't get it twisted. In some of these fights that he even won, he was getting landed on. He was eating some shots in some of these fights. The Josh Emmett fight, of course, he ate a lot of shots in that fight too. So the striking defense is definitely not the best. He keeps his hands very low, but it also allows him to be very quick with his hands. He has his hands low. He's flicking them up. He's catching these guys from awkward angles. The kicks are nasty. This guy will eat your leg up if you let it sit there. Billy Q has just overall been a well-rounded, solid fighter, in my opinion. Coming off a big victory over Gabriel Benitez. That was a big one for him. The Gavin Tucker loss, definitely not the best of looks for him. If he didn't lose that fight, he really would have been, having some momentum behind him. Not to say that he doesn't have any momentum on him, but if he won that fight, it would have been a little bit of a different story here. The Kyle Nelson knockout was a nice one. Again, showing craftiness on the feet, showing skills there, showing the submission skills with the triangle choke over Jacob Kilburn. Billy Q is legit. Training over in Tampa. I know he puts in a lot of work with Matt Favola. And, this is a good fight here. I'm going to say that Shane Burgos shows up here. I'm going to give Shane Burgos the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say that he plays this fight a little bit safer, and I'm sure he's working on his defense right now. I mean, you would at least think so. In a fight where you were looking so good, and then you get knocked out like he did. If you remember, he had that delayed knockout reaction where he got clipped by Barboza, and it took him a second, and he fell back. You would think that the team is tightening things up with the defense. Coming off that knockout loss, you got to know you can't take too many shots continuously like that. I mean, the chin might give out again. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that plays things a little bit more safe. He'll be the sharper fighter overall. He'll be the more explosive athlete. The fighter that's just, he'll just be the better striker. I really do believe that. If he doesn't get clipped with that big shot, he'll have the volume and he'll be winning on the scorecards. The X factor is that damage shot. Can Billy Q put the damage on him? And I'll go against that. I'll say that's a little bit more less likely to happen. I'll take the better overall fighter in Shane Burgos. Now that's going to take us to the co main event, the people's fight, right? The people's, what is it? Not the people's champion, but the people's fight, right? This is the most favorited fight on the fight card. People are looking more towards this fight than almost every fight in the card, possibly Usman Colby in this, I would say. No disrespect to Thug Rose and Zhang, but I mean, those are the two fights that everybody's going to be going nuts for, at least as far as I'm concerned. This fight right here, on paper, I think it's about as exciting as it gets. I think that this is as two fighters that have the resumes and the fighting styles that these two guys have. I'm trying to even think. Can you guys comment below two fighters that had this type of style going in, clashing with each other? I mean, there's some good ones, but I mean, this is it. Justin Gaethje versus Tony Ferguson. Again, you got Gaethje involved in the fight. Now, this is an interesting fight here, okay? Michael Chandler. First off, if you're not familiar with Bellator, if you really didn't watch Bellator throughout the last decade or so, you really don't have a clue how talented of a fighter Michael Chandler is. Since he's came to the UFC, I mean, you saw him go in there and knock out Dan Hooker in the fashion that he did. You didn't really get to see too much of him. And then you saw him look great in the first round against Charles and then end up getting knocked out in the second. Make no mistake, Chandler has been involved in some of the greatest wars that have ever happened in mixed martial arts. I mean, if you want to see one of the most entertaining fights you'll ever see, watch Michael Chandler versus Eddie Alvarez the first time around. I mean, he's definitely willing to go to war. That was a 5-round fight. He could wrestle. He has dynamite power in his hands. If this guy touches you, he's putting you out. I mean, this guy's throwing fastballs. His hips are crazy. His footwork's amazing. Again, another fighter that's been putting in work with Henry Hooft over at Sanford MMA. And, he's the real deal. Does have some issues with his striking defense. We talked about Burgos' striking defense. There's been some issues with Chandler's striking defense. We saw him get knocked out, by one of the Pitbull brothers over in Bellator. We saw him get knocked out by Oliveira in the second round. Where, he dropped his hands a little bit, got a little worked up, and in that fight, he was it was a tough spot for him. And it was crazy. I mean, he 10-8'd Charles basically in the first round, almost 10-8 round him, put the heat on him. But that was just that type of fight. It was an absolute war. Chandler came on the losing end that day. But I know that Chandler went right back to the drawing board, and this guy's mindset is absolutely made of steel. And this guy's mindset right here is it's bulletproof. I mean, he's coming in here knowing that he's going to win this fight, and there's no fear in this man. Again, I want to touch upon the power again. Talk about the power. This guy, Michael Chandler's right hand is disgusting, and take into consideration that Justin Gaethje is a guy that is willing to take one to give one. If you've been watching Gaethje from the beginning, this is a guy that's eaten a lot of shots. As of recently, he's actually really sharpened things up. as of recently. Over the last couple of fights, he's much more of a cerebral fighter and a much more of a technical striker. Back in the day, if you remember him when he was fighting at the World Series of Fighting, he ate a lot of shots. And those shots could have all been avoided, but he didn't care to avoid them. He was part of his game plan to literally let you to attack him, eat your shots, and then just break you down. We saw it in his UFC debut. Michael Johnson had success on him on the feet. Michael Johnson hurt him, and he just ate it all up and then ended up just absolutely feasting on Johnson. Again, though, keep taking into consideration, Gaethje seems to be a different fighter these days. But I have a feeling, I don't know, I have this gut feeling that the animal instinct's going to come out of him in this fight. Because if there's a guy that will bring that out of you, it's without a doubt Michael Chandler, because he's going to be plotting forward, looking to take your head off. And when Gaethje sees that, I have a feeling that Gaethje's just going to let loose and these guys are going to go at it. I have a hard time seeing this fight go the distance. I think somebody gets knocked out. I think whoever lands that big shot first is going to win this fight. You saw it with Chandler recently. He finished Hooker quickly, almost finished Oliveira to an extent. I mean, he hurt him bad, and then or he gets finished. I mean, it's a recipe with Chandler too. Chandler's either take you out sometimes or be taken out as of recently, and Gaethje. No, let's not forget too, man. Gaethje had some fights, a while back, a little bit ago, that he ended up coming up short in the Eddie Alvarez and Poirier fight. He broke down in the later rounds too. So for anyone that's just saying that he's gonna have the edge because he's training up at altitude while Chandler's training down at sea level, I don't know about that, man. Chandler has a gas tank, and we've seen Gaethje break down a little bit. Again, we're talking about very high caliber fighters in Poirier, but Eddie Alvarez, if you really look at what Alvarez was doing at the time, Alvarez started to lose fights here. So victories over Barbosa, Vic, Cerrone, Tony Ferguson, are those really as high of caliber fighters as maybe they seem on paper? I mean, yes, Edson Barbosa is. Cerrone, definitely on the decline of his career. Tony Ferguson, not the same fighter, but you can also argue Gaethje is the man that made him not the same fighter. I don't know. Either way, this fight is awesome. I'm so excited for this fight, boys. I will be on Instagram. Make sure you guys have me on Instagram. I will be on Instagram with the stories going. I'll try to throw up a live video or something, but I'm pumped for this fight here. I'm going to take Michael Chandler to win the fight. I like Chandler to win this fight. I think it's a very, very close fight. It could go either way. I like the value more so on Chandler's side. This is a tough fight here. I know there's some things pointing towards Gaethje's direction as well. I see action coming in on him, but I'll pick Chandler there. I think that Chandler can maybe land that big shot. Or again, we talked about if it goes to the distance, it's still anyone's fight. Do not sleep on Chandler there. And Chandler 35, Gaethje 32. Chandler, of course, the shorter fighter. I mean, that's his style, man. He's the short Mike Tyson type fighter. And he actually has a 1.5 inch reach advantage. And that's how he's able to close that distance so quick. Beautiful footwork, but long arms for his height as well. Gotta love watching me some Michael Chandler, man. This fight's going to be awesome. I got Michael Chandler to win it. All right, about to jump into this co-main event bout. Rose Namajunas taking on Weili Zhang. Just going to let you guys know, I'm filming this right now, right about 1:30 in the morning. We're up late over here, so if you see my eyes looking a little wilted, just know it's a late night for me. I had some turbulence over here in the back end, man. My microphone was acting up. Took me a while to get that ironed out, which if you guys could comment below, how does the mic sound? I know it probably sounds a little bit different than usual. Is it sounding all right for you boys? I hope it's okay. If not, I'll sharpen it up. I'll alter some things, but I had a little bit of turbulence there. I had to reset things with the mic, so not sounding exactly how it normally does. Keep in mind, man, I had a couple of you guys shoot me some donations just randomly. It was very, very much appreciated. You guys know what I'm talking about if you're listening, and I just want to give a special shout out to you guys. And if anybody would like to donate to the channel, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Same way if you're looking for my exclusive plays as well. I mean, if you're not looking for that, you just want to donate or you want the exclusive bets, either way, it's highly appreciated. And as far as the donations go, I accept PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, and all donations will go towards this channel. You guys know I've been talking about it for a long time. I got the studio on the horizon. That will be happening towards the beginning of next year. And I'm looking to get a new camera. maybe a new mic, a new computer. We'll get the whole thing going there. And I want to kind of really, I don't want to show my cards and tell you guys everything, but I'm looking to really do some cool stuff. Looking to make a really cool studio for the recordings, man. Throw a cage in the back, throw a whole thing going on. So if anybody would like to donate, man, it's highly appreciated. Just reach out to me and I'll give you my information there. And with no further ado, we're going to jump right into the co-main event of the card. Rose Namajunas and Weili Zhang in the rematch. Now remember, this fight just happened 6 months ago, and Rose got the early knockout. Beautiful head kick knockout. Dropped Zhang. And at the time, man, Zhang was really steamrolling with momentum. Almost seemed unstoppable at the time. If you ask me, I really did think that Joanna Jędrzejczyk won that fight in the previous fight, the split decision. I thought it was an excellent fight, though. And, both fighters were winners. There was no loser that day. But I did think that she lost that fight. So we could be talking about 2 losses in a row. But, I mean, we're talking about high caliber fights. I mean, she had that knockout over Jessica Andrade. I mean, I would like to see that fight ran back down the line. I mean, did she just get caught that day? I don't know. But, Zhang, 32 years old. Rose Namajunas, only 29, which is crazy. We've seen this girl grow up in front of our eyes. Remember her fighting on the Ultimate Fighter show? It seemed like a whole world ago. She still hasn't broke 30. That's crazy. I want to clear some things up in regards to Thug Rose because, I've definitely thrown some shade at her. And it was really all in good fun, first off. But, in the beginning of her career, if you remember on The Ultimate Fighter, she had a little bit of an attitude. She said she was the thug, and she said she got that nickname because she was, doing thug activities, this and that. And I didn't buy it then, and I certainly didn't buy it when I saw Conor McGregor break that glass, and I saw her start crying and have post-traumatic stress from that incident. It was kind of annoying, to be quite honest. If you got glass in your eyes, like Ray Borg, and, Michael Chiesa was bleeding. Yeah, I understand to be a little upset about that, but I don't even think anything happened to Thug Rose. I think she just literally had post-traumatic stress from the incident. I lost some respect for her in that sense, which I know some of you guys will be like, oh, you're being too hard on her. But I'm just, keeping it real with you guys. She has gained a lot of my respect back, just in the way that she's going out there and handling business and just literally putting all of her attention and focus to the fight game. You could see what her and Pat Barry are doing. I mean, they're out there. They're really searching for greatness. They're searching to be to have Thug Rose be the greatest women's fighter of all time. I mean, she's up there trying to compete with that level. I mean, in my opinion, she's trailing Shevchenko and Nunes, and but her name is up there. If there's a Mount Rushmore for women's mixed martial arts, and she's barking up that tree. I mean, of course, you got Ronda Rousey. A couple other girls, Cyborg, maybe you want to say Gina Carano, it's a whole different thing, but Thug Rose is just an amazing fighter. She's really been winning me over. I'm going to be rooting her on in this fight. I really am. I want her to win this fight. And I don't see any reason why she can't. I mean, she looked absolutely poised in the first fight. She was so calm in there. She's seeing things so fluidly in the fights. It's like it's in slow motion. She's been looking very, very good as of recently. Took out Jessica Andrade in the rematch after being slammed on her head. Showing resilience, coming back in the rematch and sticking to a game plan, picking Andrade apart. Of course, the Joanna Jędrzejczyk fights showed up, handled business. An extremely well-rounded fighter. A rangy fighter. She's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage, a 1-inch height advantage over Zhang. Just keep in mind that Zhang is a very legit fighter, and you guys know this. Zhang has some nasty striking. She's a very physically strong girl. Now, when this fight happens, if Namajunas doesn't get that early knockout, I mean, we're going to see this fight actually progress and take place. And there's going to be a lot of things that are going to unravel in front of our eyes. We didn't see anything the first time. Okay, so there's a lot of X factors here. I like Thug Rose to get it done, though. I like what she's been doing as of recently. This is a straight-up pick-em fight. I like Thug Rose to show up and handle business. I'm not sure if she gets a quick knockout like last time. I don't think she necessarily needs to get a early knockout to win the fight. I think there's a lot of things that could happen here. Thug Rose is a polished and technical striker. She can throw down for 25 minutes and style on her opponent. Zhang's tough as well, but I love Thug Rose's her kicks. She has nice kicks. I mean, her entire striking arsenal is very, very nice. I'm gonna pick Thug Rose to win the fight. It's a pick'em fight, so you pick your poison here. I'm sure some of you guys like Zhang. Maybe some of you guys think this time the fight actually plays out and you see Zhang start to thrive there. But Zhang froze in that first fight, so she better not do that this time around because she will be sleeping again. Thug Rose has fight-ending ability. Thug Rose to win the fight. All right, we made it to the main event. Real quick, boys, please, again, hit that like button if you guys didn't do that already. Hit that subscribe button. If you're interested in working with me for my exclusive plays, I'll make it quick. Just reach out to me. I'll give you my pricing. And if you're looking for, excuse me, if you're looking for a new sports book, reach out to me. I'll give you my referral code. My referral link will sign you up to bovada.lv, bovada.lv. And once we sign you up, I'll give you some free plays for using that link. And it's an excellent sports book. This is a great card to hop on for all of that. I'm telling you, man. I'll say this real quick one more time, too. We hit 7 plays in a row now. And our profit margin in the last 2 months is roughly 25 units in the green. I'm going to have that graphic up on my Instagram. Follow me on Instagram, MMA Fortune Teller _. I'm going to have the exact breakdown to a T. You guys can check it out. But we're in the profit margin up right around 25 and change. So keep an eye on what I'm doing over here. Again, 7 plays in a row consecutively, and I'm looking to do some major damage on this card. Do not hesitate to reach out to me. My email is MMAFortuneTeller@gmail.com. Instagram, I've been saying it, MMAFortuneTeller _. Shoot me a DM. And we got this giant main event here. Colby Covington taking on Kamaru Usman. It's crazy, man. Kamaru's coming off a spectacular knockout over Jorge Masvidal. One of the most devastating knockouts we've ever seen in a championship fight. You got to give Usman credit. This is a guy that's really grown on me. I'm a big fan of Usman's. This guy's a class act. I mean, you can't say a bad thing about this guy. I like everything about him. Back in the day, people would say he was a little bit of a boring fighter, a little bit of a blanket fighter. If you remember him fighting on American Top Team versus Black Zillions back in the day. I mean, he has evolved so much with his striking. I mean, he has had very, very high level training throughout the years. Putting in work with Henry Hooft again. We talk about, and now training over there with name slipping my mind. I refuse to allow that. Hold on, real quick. Of course, the same coach as Thug Rose. Oh no, it's gonna drive me nuts. You guys know who I'm talking about, man. God, it's on the tip of my tongue, boys. Trevor Whitman. Thank you. Ain't letting that happen. But Trevor Whitman, one of the best striking coaches in the game. I mean, that guy's been putting in work for years, and this guy's he's as good as it gets out there right now. I mean, you saw him. He takes Kamaru Usman. You could arguably say Kamaru looked to be the best version of himself that we've ever seen in his career, especially on the feet. I mean, that knockout victory that he had over Jorge was beautiful, but yet disgusting. If you guys catch my drift. The knockout over Gilbert Burns. I mean, his striking has been looking devastating. He had the finish over Colby, a little bit debatable, but either way, I mean, he dropped him. He was hurting him. I think he was on his way to finishing the fight. I think that Mark Goddard should have let it go a little bit longer, but I don't know if Colby was getting out of that, to be honest. And, before we even get into what Colby's been doing, how about we talk about that last fight real quick? In that last fight, I had Colby Covington winning that fight up into the 5th round based on the fact that I had it 2-2 going into the 5th. Excuse me, guys. Mind you, I actually had an official play in Colby. I had a stab on Colby. Again, got it at dog odds. I thought there was value there. I had it 2-2, and I had Colby controlling that 5th round for the most part. He was leading that 5th round. He was landing more shots until all of a sudden thunder struck towards the end of that 5th round. I mean, so that was crazy. One of the judges actually had it 3-1 Colby going into that 5th round as well. And one judge did have it for Usman as well. And then the other one was 2-2, which, if you were watching that fight before Usman dropped him, it seemed that, to me, Colby was landing more shots there. He was in control. I mean, this was Colby's fight before he got dropped, in my opinion, or at least razor close. But as far as the line, I'm saying the value was on Colby. That was a play that when I lost that day, it was still a profitable event. I hit my other plays that night. But when that happened, You know, I said, you know what, I'm happy that I took that stab on Colby, because that's what professionals do. If you really are you're doing, if you're making the right moves, I think that was the route there. I think that, you know, Colby was more than live to win the fight. And, you know, people are high on Usman, and people are going to be even more high on Usman now based on what he's been doing recently, because now he's showing different wrinkles in his game. I mean, he's showing that he's an absolute devastator on the feet. I mean, this guy goes in there and he could literally, forget about just breaking your jaw like he broke Colby's jaw last time. I mean, he could really put you flat out. What he did to Masvidal was crazy. All right, so you know that's got to be in Colby's head. I know Colby's always playing the wild man, like he doesn't care about anything, but you know that's going through Colby's head. You've got to be a little bit intimidated getting locked into the octagon with a guy like Usman, the Nigerian nightmare. But I'll tell you what, at the same time, if there's a guy that's going to have some confidence going into the fight, it's got to be Colby as well. The guy's gas tank is ridiculous. I think this guy puts in more work than anybody in the game. I really believe that. I think this guy's an absolute grinder. And his cardio second to none. And it's not even that. It's the striking. Again, if you watch that first fight, he was outlanding Usman. He throws more volume. He was diverse with the strikes. He's unorthodox. He was tagging Usman up. And he could push that pace. We didn't see any wrestling exchanges in that fight. I don't know if we see any wrestling exchanges again in this fight. I think that they excuse me, guys. Getting a little distracted here. What's going on over here? Where does he find these? All right. Excuse me. But yeah, I don't know if we see any grappling exchanges again. I think that these guys are probably going to look to start right where they finished, and you know that's striking on the feet. And you know, one thing I will say too, if you're watching the Embedded and whatnot, I like the respect that Usman's given to Colby. He's a class act. You know, you're not going to get that back from Colby. At least maybe not till after the fight. I don't even know about that. And this is going to be a good fight. I'm going to take Colby Covington to win this fight. I like Colby here. I think that Colby is going to be, I know Colby's going to be extremely motivated after losing that last fight the way he did. Mind you, he went back to the drawing board anyway. Okay? Went back to the drawing board, got a big victory over Woodley, broke him in that fight. And I think that he's coming back now, and I think that he's gonna be very sharp in there. Also, keep in mind, Colby has now been training over at MMA Masters in Miami, a very solid fight gym over there. MMA Masters, a lot of big names over there, a lot of solid coaching. You know, American Top Team, of course, is as good as it gets, but you know, there's a lot of rumors that, you know, it was toxic over there for him as far as his training goes, and I believe it from some of the stories I've heard. And I think that he's in a better place right now. I think that he's getting in better training. But most importantly, when a guy gets taken out, like Colby did, whether or not it was arguable about the stoppage or whatnot, he lost that fight. He got dropped. He got his jaw broke. No matter how much Usman tries to push the envelope and get ready for this fight, which he will be. He will be. He's a professional. Colby will be the more motivated fighter going into this fight, man. When you get finished like that and you were that close to holding the gold, you still never held that real gold, that welterweight championship. I got to say Colby's the more hungry fighter here. Usman, an absolute professional, but I don't think that you can say he has that edge there. I think that I think that Colby has been on a one-way road to get this gold, man. He needs to hold this gold, and this is probably, I don't want to say his last chance, but if you lose this, it's going to be tough. You're going to need some things to shake up. You need Usman to lose a fight because you're not going to get a third chance against him. I mean, this is it here. This is it. So I like Colby to win the fight. We'll take a look at the live line real quick too. I mean, plus 250, plus 260 over at Bet Rivers. I mean, I think that's some value there. Usman minus 300. You feel comfortable taking Usman at a minus 300 line against Colby? I think then you're kind of hating on Colby and you're kind of underestimating him as a fighter. And personally, I don't think that that's a professional move. It might pay off for you. You might make some money, and Usman might get a nice knockout as well. You could even take Usman by finishing and hit some money. But as far as taking him to win, I don't know about that. I don't know if that's necessarily a professional move there, but time will tell. And that will be my pick for the main event. So again, boys, We're going to wrap up UFC 268. You guys know I got to give you something before we get out of here, but do not hesitate to reach out to me if you guys want to work with me for my official plays, man. Please do not hesitate. I've loved all the comments that you guys that have sent to me. Guys that have been winning, taking my plays, and just sending over these messages saying how much you appreciate them, and it makes me feel better when I'm putting all this time in on the tape, and I'm sitting here putting in a lot of work, because I don't know if a lot of you guys realize, man, there's a lot that goes into this, a lot more than maybe some of you guys realize. Like I said, recording this almost now at 2 in the morning, or catching up there, and the little things, man, setting up the videos, doing the research, which I'm going to do, of course, regardless, but all this stuff, man, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all the support. And again, if you guys want to donate, man, reach out to me. I appreciate you guys. I'll start putting that in the video more often, but don't get it twisted. By no means am I saying I expect that. It's just very much appreciated. And on that note, I got to give you guys something good, man. I don't know. I don't got nothing good, man. I think I'm going to stick to a traditional one. Probably one of my favorite ones, because it's just the least practiced, I think, out of all the ones I talk about. You got to cut those sugars out, okay? I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were talking about how eating too many eggs isn't good for you. Okay, listen, for your cholesterol or whatnot. People thinking about things like that, but these are the same people that eat donuts for breakfast, that eat sweets all the time, that are constantly eating desserts and whatnot. It's not good. I've been slacking a little bit recently. It was Halloween. You guys probably see a couple extra pounds on the teller's face. It's all right though. I'm getting on the grind. I got on the grind today. For Monday, I'm going to be grinding it out all week. Get back in shape. Make a little run before Thanksgiving. Then we'll get back on it then. Get back on the eating. And then, got to have balance in your life. But watch the damn sweets. Watch the damn sweets. Too many of those sweets, it's not good for you, man. All right? So that's the going out message. I appreciate every single one of you guys from the bottom of my heart. Hit that like button on your way out, man. Show me some love there. All right, guys. Hit the comment section up. Get in the comment section, man. I'll respond to every one of you guys. Hit me up with some questions about the card. Let's talk about who you're eyeing, who are you guys taking on this fight card. All right, guys. On that note, signing out. Teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.